what you created. Everything surrounding me, you made it. Everything's so beautiful the way it flows together. I think I hear birds singing your praises. Amen. I swear you make me feel like I'm your favorite. Oh, it's the way the birds.
Welcome to the Awkward Autistic Black Girl. I'm Alicia, the Awkward Autistic Black Girl, and I'm going to talk about my personal autism symptoms or signs. Now, maybe a little bit of the backstory of how I kind of came to this conclusion, because I'm technically undiagnosed. I'm self-diagnosed, and I would be late diagnosed. With all that in mind, I'm getting anxious because I might miss some things. I'm still finding out things as time goes on. Sometimes I'll think back to a moment out of nowhere, or I'll be sleeping and I'll have a thought pop up and I'll be like, oh yeah, remember that? Yeah, and I'll look it up and it'll be an autism thing. So your girl's still figuring the stuffs out. Anyway, these are my autism symptoms. Yeah. One of my autism symptoms is hyperlexia. I loved to spell, read books, and I was advanced in reading and writing at a young age. I believe in 4th grade, they told me that I was reading at a college level. And when I was in high school, I was writing my mom's college papers for her. So maybe that's like a thing. And I was getting good grades on them too. So anyway, so for me, writing has to sound a specific way. So I will rewrite things until it sounds the way that I imagined it would sound in my head. This also aligns with the comorbidity of OCD with autism, which I believe OCD as a comorbidity with autism is because of being nitpicked to the point where you feel like you have to be perfect because you're not neurotypical, but you're expected to behave neurotypical. And then because people are constantly expecting you to act neurotypical even though you're not, you develop OCD and you hyperfixate on picking at yourself before other people can. So yeah, there's that. Dyscalculia. I had a hard time with numbers. I would visualize them in my mind in an attempt to do math problems in school. I took the same math class in college 5 times in a row, still have not completed it. Can't get my degree because I haven't completed it. Didn't know that I was probably autistic, and that might have been like some help in that. But I do have pattern recognition with numbers and license plates, etc. I also have a thing for prophetic numbers. I'm a Christian. I believe in God.
Prophetic numbers are not angel numbers. They are number sequences that align with biblical text in the Bible. And there's a book called the Strong's Concordance, which kind of like lines up the numbers with words and meanings in both the Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic text in the Bible. So yeah,
it's interesting, and check that out sometime if you want to. Anyway, I lined toys up on my bed as a kid. Had and still have a very specific way that I like to make my bed. I was a very picky eater, and I avoided a lot of foods as a kid. Some people associate this with a restrictive food intake disorder, which is ARFID. So only eating very specific foods. And then some people only eat the same foods over and over and over and over and over again. I do to an extent, but I'll fixate on foods for like a period of time. And then I have bulldog noodles, and I probably eat them. I buy them very frequently, and I eat them almost daily. And I just bought the teriyaki kind because I haven't had the teriyaki kind. I don't like it as much as the original, I don't think, but I do like the flavor of teriyaki. Okay, let me stop before I get like sucked away into the tunnel of food. But I do have like a food thing. I kind of consider myself to be a foodie because of it too. So some of the reasons that I had avoidant restricted food intake issues is because it would be sensory or taste related. So if foods are too sticky, too mushy, too slimy, that's a turn off for my taste buds. And then if it's too bitter or sour or like sharp of a taste, I don't know how to describe that, that would also be a problem. And then I have stories about my mom forcing me to sit at the table with a bowl of oatmeal in front of me for hours until I would eat, and then eventually giving up because I would not eat it. She also said that I ate like a bird, which was like a common phrase that she would say to me. Yeah. And then this is still in the food category, became a vegetarian and got a dietitian because I wanted to make sure that I was eating all of the foods in the food group that you're supposed to eat, because if you have restrictive eating patterns, there's a chance that you're not nourishing your body correctly, and that can cause issues. So I would still only eat restricted foods, but a healthier version after doing that, which just basically means like I'll only eat Mexican food and I'll only eat this kind of Mexican food minus the meat. And then the same with like Asian food. I will only eat Asian food, but I will only eat this kind of food. Which that kind of gets me to think, I live with somebody who's diagnosed with autism as well right now, and he also has, I've noticed, like kind of a restrictive eating where he only eats like mostly like Asian rice and like, you know, sticky rice and, you know, very specific food patterns. So, and it's funny because like somebody else has told me, you're just like that person. That person is a white autistic male and I am a black self-diagnosed autistic female. So I find that to be very interesting. That was a rant, a middle rant in the middle of this. Anyway, yeah, I took longer to pick up on things. So I relate that to processing issues. So for example, I struggled with reading a clock, an analog clock, and I still struggle with reading an analog clock. I have to count like all the 10 things, 10, 20, no, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And I think the big hand is like the minutes and the little hand is like the hours. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, special interests all throughout my life. So these are some of the special interests that I've had. I don't even have some of them on here, but art was one. Bands and music. When I got into high school, I was really into bands. Movie characters. So I picked up mannerisms through movie characters and I related very deeply with movie characters. Got really into books for a long time. Had a rock collection at one point, so I got into rocks. I should say crystals as well, because crystals were also my thing. Rocks with crystals, crystallized rocks, crystals. K-pop for a while. Really liked XOK. Tao was in XOM, but my favorite member was Tao. And I liked New East, and my favorite member of New East was Ren with his blonde hair. I was into tarot and the occult, and it was a special interest for a while. I have a special interest in Disney princesses and their stories, and I can still I still relate with Disney princesses heavily. Jesus Christ, the Bible, Christianity is one of my special interests. Interior decorating is a special interest of mine. Blush pink, specifically blush pink, is a special interest of mine. I love anything blush pink. And if I see blush pink stuff, they have these new cups at Target that are kind of like see-through mugs, and they're pink, and they're really like, I don't know, they're really pretty. They're translucent, almost blush pink looking cups. I want them. I haven't bought them yet, but I'm gonna get them. Sterling silver jewelry. I don't really like the look of gold, I like sterling silver. So it kind of became like a special interest. I used to have really bad sensory issues with jewelry, but that's kind of like dissipated over time. So I like jewelry because I'm learning that I like to, like, for example, I had a cross necklace and it broke, but I would just like, when I would worship, I would just rub my necklace, and sometimes I'd put it like on my bottom lip and just let it sit there, and it's kind of like a stimming thing too. Gamine style clothing is also a special interest, but it's my definition of gamine. So it may not match what the actual definition is, but hey. And then specific video games growing up, like I liked Fable. What is that one game? Thrillville. Just a lot of different kinds of games. Also, my brothers play video games, and I have really bad hand-eye coordination. So I like to watch people play video games, but I don't really have like the grippy grips to be able to do it myself. I think that's dyspraxia or something, but I don't know. Don't quote me. And then socially acceptable interests. So I got really into makeup, nails, and hair, etc. Yeah. And I actually got into makeup really early. I started wearing makeup at 12 because I saw another girl doing it in school, and I just thought it was so pretty, and I thought it looked really good on darker skinned women, and I was just like, I gotta do that. And then my mom was selling Mary Kay, so I went in my mom's room and I was like, hey, you sell makeup, I wanna wear makeup. And my mom was all for it. So she just gave me all the makeup, and I was like obsessed, and I loved makeup ever since. Also, excuse my hair. It is, I don't know what to do with it. I can't get it to do what I want it to do. So it's just gonna have to look like this. Yeah, not being able to do stuff or understand fully unless someone explains the purpose of what I'm doing and why it's important to know. That was another big reason of why it was so hard for me to learn math, because if somebody's like trying to teach you math and they're just kind of like, and I'm like, why are we doing this? And you don't have an answer for me, it makes me not want to do it. And I don't know why. And that also is seen as oppositional defiance sometimes. But usually people kind of label me with oppositional defiance, like at work or when it comes to like doing household tasks. If I was going to do something and then you bring it up as if like, oh, you need to do that, it's gonna make me not want to do it. I don't know why. I think that's another PDA, some PDA autism or something. Anyway. Extensively researching all kinds of vast topics. I hear this is an autistic thing that a lot of autistic people do. They research when they don't know stuff. Me too. Frequently bullied by neurotypical girls, primarily black girls. So yeah, I remember at one point in middle school, I was fitting in with the popular girls. I guess I had the look. I don't know how, but I guess I kind of had the look. Or maybe they thought I was pretty, hung out with them for a while, realized they were kind of shallow people, and that they wanted me to behave in very certain ways. I didn't, so then I was kind of like kicked out of the group. I don't know. People expect when you look a certain way that you act a certain way, and when you don't, they're kind of like confused by it. And then that also extended to middle school boys. They wanted me to date a specific guy in the friend group. I didn't want to do that. And then they ended up like not liking me. And the guys also began not liking me because of it. And they began bullying me because of it. So there's that. Frequent meltdowns throughout my life. So this increased with age and as pressure to follow societal constructs increased. Yeah, I just experienced more meltdowns as time went on. And I think it's because the things that were seen as cute, quirky traits when I was little stopped being cute and quirky when I was a full grown woman. So there's that. Difficulty with emotional regulation, difficulty relating with others. And so I have like listed my family, friends, and acquaintances. With my family kind of frequently feeling misunderstood, judged, criticized, like my decisions being criticized, ostracized by my family. And then I felt like I was kind of constantly overstimulating my mom. Also kind of felt like a scapegoat child. My friends, I could have friends for extended periods of time, but I had difficulty maintaining the friendships despite the length of time. And sometimes I would hurt other people's feelings and not really be aware of it. Sometimes I was aware of it though, and I didn't care, because I'm like, sometimes other people would do stuff, and then when you react in a way that they would react, they don't like it. So it's like, if you think it's okay to do it to me, but if I was to do it to you, it wouldn't be okay. So I'll like know that this is bothering you, and I won't care because you don't care that it's bothering me when you do it. Just so you can see how it feels. And then that usually ends up ending the friendship some way. Anyway. Yeah, so similar feelings as with family happened with friends. And then I also struggle to be able to maintain female friendships. I tend to be better friends with neurodivergent people. And, you know, some neurodivergent people are unaware that they're neurodivergent. Me for a long time, but some of them are really mean. So there's that. And then with acquaintances, frequently called weird, told that I'm trying to be different, even though I feel like I'm trying to blend in. Sometimes not liked almost instantly. Not sure when to talk within conversations, nor when to leave a conversation. Then I'll have difficulty looking people in the eyes during conversation. So sometimes that leads to either too much eye contact, so calculating how much eye contact to give or take away as this is occurring, or not enough eye contact. And that would be like frequently looking around the room, which I try not to do. But if I'm really uncomfortable, it's just like, shit. I'm reading off a list, by the way. I have extreme dislike of change, so I prefer to stick to a specific routine. Excessive talking is also another thing that I do, and I overshare a lot when I talk excessively. A selective mutism, so I thought that, well, my mom thought that I was mute for a point in kindergarten. She got mad at me because she felt like I was acting shy, but I believe that I was mirroring my friends. I was friends with these twins, and they did not speak often. So I was being marked absent at school because I would not say that I was there when the teacher would call me. I would be silent at school often and vocal at home. I practice what I'm going to say before I say it a lot of times. So this is for normal conversations that I know I'm going to have in preparation for conversations, but also like for job interviews. My bad, my mind just like blanked. And then stimming, here's some of like the stimming. I should make a separate video for stimming. I think I'm gonna make a separate video for stimming. Yeah, we're gonna do that. But I do stim. I'm gonna skip the stimming details, but I'm just gonna, yeah. I put my mom focused on behaviors that I needed to get better at. So she would say like, women do this and cook, clean, etc. She made me clean a lot more than my siblings. And then she would also say like, men do this, take out the trash, walk the dog, etc. And I would do those things that she would tell me to do until I got physically drained to the point that I could not do it anymore. And then I just stopped doing it, which sometimes caused problems. And then oversharing, again, which goes with excessive talking, but I overshare. Sometimes extremely personal and sometimes traumatic situations that have happened to me. This one kind of sticks out to me. I had a friend who asked me if I was autistic, and I was like, kind of like, what? Because I didn't know what it was. And then later down the line, I went over her house for Christmas with her mom, her family, and her mom asked me, well, her mom met me, and then she's a Christian school teacher who works with children, and she also asked me if I was autistic. So then I was kind of like, and you know, like teachers are trained to kind of like see that stuff, so it made me like, maybe there's something to that. Talking to myself. So I talk to myself, and then I also sometimes talk to inanimate objects, and I also give them feelings sometimes. Gastrointestinal issues. So as a teenager, I went to the doctor a lot because of constant bloating and inflammation in my stomach. And I was told to start eating gluten, soy, and dairy-free foods. I also have a lot of food sensitivities, and then I also have a lot of food allergies. And some people say that the gastrointestinal issues have to do with issues with your nervous system regulation, so it affects your stomach. And then frequent use of the restroom when experiencing anxiety. So I also believe that has to do with the nervous system affecting my bowel movements and gastrointestinal system. So when I experience anxiety, sometimes I go to the bathroom just to collect myself and my thoughts, and other times I go for a genuine need to use the restroom. And then also I experience frequent urination, and I think that has to do with interoception, which I will talk about in a little bit. This one's kind of, bad, but frequent SA. So, and this has to do with not understanding social cues with men, taking men too literally, and then that also results in like being manic pixie dream girled all the time, which if you don't know what that is, Google it. It's interesting concepts, especially in relation to autism. And then also being seen as naive and shy to men, which leads to being coerced into doing things that I don't want to do, and also being seen as ditzy and dumb, and boundaries not being respected. So there's that. Then there's struggles with maintaining employment, and sometimes that has to do with being infantilized at work and talked down to. And then sometimes I have like they say like autistic blank face or like stare, and that is seen as stupidity sometimes. I'm also seen as being insubordinate sometimes, which I said also has to do with oppositional defiance or whatever they call it, which I'm not being defiant. It's just like PDA autism anyway. Yeah, I've had a lot of jobs. So many jobs that I've lost count. Between the 50 and 60-ish range amount of jobs. And if you don't know, there's I think a study that says that 75% of autistic people are unable to maintain employment or are unemployed. So there's that. And then substance abuse. So I started drinking in order to relax enough to unmask. And I would also drink so that I would be able to have intercourse and not be stressed out. So, but I think that became kind of an addiction. So yeah. And then smoking marijuana, I would do it to numb the effects of what I was going through at the time. But I've always had really extremely strong reactions to it, and I would start to see stuff, so I stopped doing it. And then here's the interoception problems that I was talking about earlier. So interoception is your ability to sense and interpret internal bodily signals, such as heart rate, breathing, hunger, pain, having to use the bathroom. So sometimes I'd have issues with that. Or like having a high pain tolerance because, I don't sense the pain. like I should or whatever. And then here's some that I put down as specific to being Black. So being a Black autistic person, I believe some of the ways that we're treated and that our autism is unseen is because we're Black, and there are all of these associations with Black autism. So being Black with autism means you are constantly experiencing life as a racialized being while also experiencing signs and symptoms of autism. So I don't know if I came up with this term, but I feel like I did, but double code switching. And so for me, that's making myself more palatable to white people and or other races, but also having to mask to make up for social deficits. So both at the same time. And then I guess this is kind of under code switching, but being seen as a threat when you're not like constantly smiling or being like almost like a caricature of yourself. And then under that I put a blank face is seen as being angry or disinterested. I also said like tone policing. So tone of voice when speaking in a passionate way is often taken as anger. And I found that you're constantly fighting the angry Black woman stereotype. Masking difficulties. So like if you're having trouble with masking and you're not masking in a way that's like sufficient enough, then you are perceived as hiding something or being sneaky. And then I also noticed like difficulties that you have definitely can be minimized. So sometimes people don't take you as seriously when you talk about difficulties that you're having. So they don't take you seriously when you tell them that you're overwhelmed or frustrated or request more support. And then I don't know if this one was specific to being Black, but it felt like it was, so I put it in the thing. But I felt like sometimes teachers would be more aggressive to me than they would to neurotypical peers. So, for example, I was doodling in my notebook one time and I was listening to the teacher, but I wasn't looking at the teacher. And I remember she snatched my notebook from me from underneath my pen so hard that it like ripped through the papers. Like it ripped through a couple pages. And I was so frustrated and upset and angry that I got up. I walked over to her desk and I literally like threw everything that was on her desk on the floor. Like I just swept it all off. And I was very frustrated. And then I put just being treated as if you're less than human, because it's almost like I feel as though Black people are already kind of seen like second-class citizens, but then being Black and then being a woman, so you're now not listened to because of your feminine experience. And then also like, I don't know, I don't feel like women's health and thought processes are really taken seriously anyway, especially if people deem you attractive. Yeah. And then I forgot what I was saying. And then also being like, autistic on top of it is like triple whammy. Like you're Black, you are Black, you are a woman, 2 double whammies, bottom of the totem pole. And you're disabled in some way, shape, or form, which, you know, they say disabled, I say you just behave differently. You get a triple whammy with that, so good luck getting anybody to take your diagnostic process seriously and validate your experiences and help you to get work accommodations and, you know, vocational services and, you know, medical guidance without gaslighting. Good luck. Anyway, those are some of the ones that I put, the big ones. I'll probably think of more later and then, you know, come up with like a part 2, a part 3, who knows. And we'll come back and just add to the list as time goes on. So yeah.